Okay. So hi everybody, my name is Kevin Diarco. I'm the Assistant Director for the Student Leadership and Involvement Center. We're here today to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about it in a lot of different capacities. We're going to think about it in the concept of our leadership studies minor. We're going to talk about it in terms of context of leadership here at the university. And then we're going to get a little bit of background from the wonderful student ambassadors that are here with me today about their leadership stories here on campus. So why leadership? Why do we have this conversation on this campus? And why is it something that I'm passionate about? It's something that I've been studying since I was an undergraduate student all the way through my graduate career. I think it is a fascinating topic. It's an ongoing topic. It is something that is always changing. There's a lot of new theory, new research. And when you think about the concept of leadership, when you think about everything that's happening in the world, you can use the lens of leadership to analyze it. So when we think about current events, modern events, everything that's going around, when we think about what's going well, what's not going well, a lot of it ends up being around the concepts of leadership. And that's where a lot of what we talk about is founded in. So as an institution, we value leadership. When we teach leadership, when we do leadership workshops, it's typically interactive. So we've been making a lot of effort to create all of our leadership workshops and do all of our leadership education materials to translate that to Zoom. As we continue to evolve in this platform, we'll find new and exciting ways to interact with students through Zoom. There are also a lot of opportunities for us to be doing that in person. So that's one thing that I love about the classroom experience, is that the learning is hands-on. Today, because of the nature of the session, I'm going to be speaking a lot to you about leadership, but typically when we talk about leadership on this campus, it's a conversation between me and my students, and it's a conversation between faculty and other staff members and their students. The last thing about leadership, it's complicated, it's complex, it's something that we need to play with, it's something that we need to really think about, but there's no one right answer. There are a lot of different ways to have a conversation about leadership. There are a lot of different theories around leadership that support different ways that people lead, and we're going to explore one of those today. So what I'm going to do is go over to a screen share so that you can see a PowerPoint presentation that we've put together at the end of today. And about the second half of our session, we're going to use our student panelists here to talk about some of their experiences. So we will introduce them when we get to that section. So I will go ahead and do my screen share. Okay. So one last thing before we move ahead, you're going to see in the top right of the box there, there is, if you do have any chat questions, please interact. Like I said, this is something that I'm expecting from folks to get back and forth on. So if you have any questions for me later on, if you have any questions for our panelists and you want to say, hey, Emma, tell me about so-and-so, we can go into more detail there. So to try to make this a little bit more interactive, we'll keep that chat box open and see what's there. So, and some of our awesome student leaders are putting their email information into the chat box. So if you want to connect with them later, you're welcome to go ahead and do that. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay. So today's session, like I said, we're going to cover a couple of different topics. One of them is the Leadership Studies minor at the U. I think it's one of the cool aspects. You know, everybody's familiar. If you're here, you're interested in coming into the UAC, and we want you to come to the UAC. But one of the cool things, we have majors, so that's your film and media arts, communication, psychology, urban ecology, and our civil engineering major. But we also have minor opportunities, so students can learn interdisciplinary topics. So if you're interested in film, but you want to study communication a little bit deeper, you can do that. We also have these minor opportunities that you can do outside of our major opportunities. One of them that you can start and work on here is the Leadership Studies minor. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to introduce you to a little bit of leadership theory. We're not going to go too much into detail. That's what the classroom is for. So we'll give you a little taste of some of the things that we talk about with our student leaders and our students in our classroom. And then we will finish with our student leader panel and talk about ways that you can get involved here at the UAC. So as I mentioned, we have a Leadership Studies minor at the UAC. It is one of, I think, the things that makes us stand out amongst our peer institutions, and I think it's one of the things that makes our campus attractive. So why teach leadership? It's something that, you know, it's like I mentioned earlier, it's a complex topic. We can talk about it in a lot of different ways. But one of the reasons why we teach leadership is that at the UAC, we believe that leaders are developed. You're not born into leadership positions. You are developed into the leader that you become. And the UAC allows you to create, and the University of Utah allows all of these different opportunities for you to grow as a leader, to explore different topics as a leader. And it's really one of the more exciting things and aspects of our campus, what makes us stand out from our peers. So why should you consider a leadership studies minor? Personal exploration. So there are standard classes that you need to take as a part of this, but there are other ways that you can explore within your majors. So if you are a comm major, there are elective classes that you can take within the leadership studies minor, so that you can talk about, so that you can explore leadership in the context of your major. You can explore leadership once you go to Salt Lake City, you can explore leadership in the context of other majors. So it allows you to see the interdisciplinary components of the leadership studies in the leadership minor. We offer two leadership classes here at the University of Utah, Asia campus. 2 of the 3 are your prerequisites for your leadership studies class. You can take these courses as soon as you come to the U, but there are, as we'll talk about later, other ways that you can explore leadership through some of our outside of the classroom experiences. And that's how you earn it. So you do need to take courses. You need to take 6 courses in order to complete your leadership studies minor. Like I said, you'll have some courses that you can take here as part of the requirements. And then you have other classes that you'll be able to take at our Salt Lake City campus when you head over there. So do hope that you explore and consider that as you're thinking about what you want to study in areas that you want to think a little bit deeper about. When we think about leadership, one thing that I want to kind of focus on is that when you see good leadership, you know it, you feel it, and that's something that you want to be a part of. When you see the leaders around you, you see that that's something that you want to aspire to be, that's something that you want to be able to influence others, and that's something that we're trying to teach everybody else, is to recognize that good leadership in others, and also to recognize what it means to be a good leader as an individual. So we're going to explore a couple different ways that we do that here through our activity. If you do take the leadership studies class, we're going to ask you a question on the first or second day of class. Who's the leader? Who are the top leaders of all time? How do we even define what a leader looks like? And this is where we're trying to think about critically, what is leadership? So I always like to ask students, who do you have in mind when you think of great leaders? So inevitably, I looked at the notes from my spring 2020 class. We're wrapping up the semester, spring class. But when I was looking at my notes for it, across the board, we had Mahatma Gandhi, the great civil rights leader of India. King Sejong is somebody that, it teaches me a lot about context when I teach this class in the US. That's somebody that I may not necessarily have seen on those lists, but it talks about the importance and emphasizes that the importance of context when it comes to leadership, because with a primarily Korean student population, we talk about King Sejong's influence on the history of Korea and the modernization of Korea a couple hundred years ago. So that's another person, that's a theme that we see a lot in this class. This class was kind of unique because we talked about Marie Curie. She is a Nobel Prize winning physicist. She's self-taught. So we have a couple different sessions where we explore women's roles in leadership and explore different topics around it. I think what's interesting when we think about leadership, we often associate it with positions. So the person before was a king. We talk a lot about presidents. We talk a lot about folks that have titles before their names. What we don't always recognize is the role that just ordinary folks like you and I play. People that are passionate, people that are driven, people that are able to overcome adversity. And Marie Curie was self-taught, and that was one of those great examples of somebody who had vision and was able to push past the social expectations of their era. Another individual that we talk a lot about more recent is Malala Yusuf. She is a young Pakistani woman who won a Nobel Peace Prize a few years ago for her work overcoming, it was a Taliban battle in Pakistan, and being able to overcome that and then be an advocate for educating young women in Pakistan, and that initiative has gone all around the world. So again, thinking about men, thinking about women, thinking about the impact that somebody who was just a teenager a few years ago and just going to school and now is a world-renowned educator, is a world-renowned Nobel Prize winner. So it comes in all formats. We talk a lot about Bill Gates, and that's one of the individuals. Steve Jobs is another one. So again, we think politics. Sometimes we go into like generals. In this particular one, we're looking at somebody who is a tech giant who has also now taken the ability to create and develop Microsoft into what it is today, into this massive corporation, and it has moved into the social welfare around the world, and some of the charity work that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is doing. And then the person we probably talked about the most as we've looked at different leadership topics this semester has been Martin Luther King Jr. Again, another individual like most here with humble roots, but with a passion, with drive, with a commitment to a cause that has transcended time. And 50, 60 years later, when we're looking at this in a global context, he's somebody that we speak about a lot in this class. So these are leaders. We've got kings, we've got tech giants, we've got Nobel Prize winners, we've got civil rights leaders. So those are what they're known for. So those are what some of these individuals are known for. But what do they have in common? These people that have been with us and have been a part of our history over the past several hundred years, all the way up to some folks that are still leading the way and still influencing others. So when we think about who these individuals are, what these leaders have in common, a few things come to mind. They have a vision for the future. So they have a vision for a better world. So they recognize an injustice, they recognize something that is a challenge, and they want to overcome that to make the world a better place. Communication. These are great speakers, but they're also great listeners. And we talk a lot in my class about the importance of listening as a leader and what that means to be a good listener, how you gather input from other individuals, what are some skills around that in order to develop yourself and to be a better communicator. Because not everybody loves public speaking, but everybody has the ability to be a good listener. Everybody has the ability to be a micro-influencer, even amongst their peers. So we talk a lot about the importance of being an active listener, what that looks like. We practice it, and we think about it within that context. Communication, perseverance. So obviously there's the drastic examples of somebody being attacked, physically attacked, like Malala. We have folks who started things from the ground up. Often when we look at leadership, often when we see the people that we talked about in that last slide, we see the final product of what a leader is. We don't see the journey of how they got there. So a lot of what we talk about and a lot of what we think about with leadership is that journey. We're talking about the importance of starting from somewhere, understanding and creating that vision, bringing people together around that vision, and then developing a cause, developing a direction around that vision. There's one more thing, there's a ton of things that they have in common. There's one more thing that they have in common and I want to touch on a little bit more today, and it's the notion of change. All leaders bring change to their communities. When you think about leadership, when you think about influence, one of the most common, the common trait between all leaders is that they have brought some sort of change. Now, when we have a leadership class, we'll talk about positive change, we look at negative change, we look at subjectivity, kind of time frames. We have a lot of these, we were able to look back in history and be able to look back on some of these movements. But when we think about the notion of change, we're thinking about the concept of positive change, being able to move your community, your organization, your country, your movement forward. When a lot of these individuals were having their initial impacts, it was within their local communities. We explore a lot about the importance of how we are interconnected now on the internet, and how we're able to have movements happen across the world and what that looks like in grassroots with the use of social media and with the use of modern movements. So one of those cool things that we get to continue to do as we explore leadership is to look at that. So like I mentioned, I did want to talk about a little bit about leadership theory before we bring our student panel in. So I will briefly introduce and talk about the social change model. The reason why I want to talk about this is it was developed for college students. So as I mentioned, we talk about these big picture leadership ideas, these big picture leadership concepts, but in the end, a lot of the leadership theory is applicable to anybody around the world. And for this particular one, it was developed by university administrators for college students with the idea that you are our future change agents. You are the ones who are going to make an impact on our campus, and you are the ones that we're teaching to make an impact on the world. So it has two foundational principles. One, change, obviously it's in the title, and the idea that within society, within our organizations, whether that's our student clubs or the university or within your academic department, we're able to bring about some sort of change. And then everybody has the ability to lead. So, we've talked about these great leaders. We're going to explore some of their journeys, some of the things that they've been able to do. But in the end, we believe that everybody has the ability to lead. It's why we teach leadership studies at this campus, and it's why we talk about leadership so much in and out of the classroom. So when we look at the social change model, it has a couple different components to it. So there are 7 C's of the social change model. We're going to break them down into 3 sections. So 1, self. So in order to be a better leader, you need to have a better understanding of yourself. And that comes in 3 different C's, the letter C. So consciousness of self is the better understanding of you. So in this class and a lot of the leadership development stuff that we do on campus, we host a lot of activities that are personal exploration, opportunities for you to learn about yourself, for you to figure out your strengths, your weaknesses, and how to apply them to our university context and to your life in and out of the classroom. So we want you to understand who you are, understand what drives you. We talk a lot about congruence. So congruence is the concept of your actions and your words aligning. So when we talked earlier about good leadership versus bad leadership, and you know it, with congruence, a lot of the issues, a lot of the challenges that we have around leadership in the world is when we act against our values. So we do some activities where we help you explore your values, identify your values, try to talk about how they come about in your day-to-day life. And we talk about the importance of leaders not only having values, but living those values and living in the way that you act and living in the way that you speak and interact with your peers. And then there's commitment. So commitment is that drive, that commitment to yourself, that commitment to your cause, commitment to what you're hoping to accomplish at the university or as an individual. So after that exploration of self, we look at the exploration of others through collaboration, controversy with civility, and common purpose. So collaboration is, again, it's the ability to work with others. So in order to know your strengths, in order to be the best teammate that you can be, you can bring those skills, you bring it to others. So thinking about what collaboration looks like, thinking about how you can make an impact in your small groups in the classroom, how you can lead an organization and connect with another organization to collaborate on a bigger topic, those sorts of things. There's controversy with civility, which if we think about the world right now, we all need to be more civil. We all need to be able to express our differences, to express different opinions, and the best leaders are the ones who are able to do it with civility. Controversy, all these challenges that we have, these are growth opportunities as society, these are growth opportunities as individuals, but what are we gonna do to be more civil with one another? What are we gonna do to be able to have good conversation where we can help move our organizations forward? And then common purpose. Leaders are able to pull together individuals around a common purpose. So thinking about the organization you lead, developing that mission statement, what do we stand for, what do we believe, and then being able to identify that common purpose and then being able to move your organization towards that common purpose. And last but not least is citizenship. So as leaders, you are citizens of your organization, you are citizens of a university. Here, you're citizens of Songdo, Incheon, Korea. We're all citizens of the world. So what does it mean to be a leader, to be able to collaborate with others, be able to work with others, and to recognize your impact on your society, however you want to define that society? The one overarching to all of this is change. It's change in yourself. It's change in your ability to work with others. It's change in your ability to navigate and to be a good citizen of the world. And that's really the core of this. So tying it back to where we were, thinking about the slide from earlier with Gandhi, King Sejong, Bill Gates, Martin Luther King Jr., Malala, and Marie Curie. When we think about this, I look at this slide, I think of 2 things. Leadership transcends identity. So we have a diverse group of folks in this on these slides in terms of their ethnic background, in terms of their nationality, male, female. It transcends identity. So anybody can be a leader, no matter where you're coming from, no matter who you are, no matter how you grew up. And then leadership transcends borders. This isn't something that is tied to nationalities. There are leaders from all over the world. On this, we have European leaders, we have Western leaders, we have Korean leaders, and we have South Asian leaders. There are leaders all around the world. There are leaders everywhere you look. You just have to think critically, and you have to kind of recognize what leadership looks like. So when I do this activity, when I think about the social change model, one of the things that I want to tie together is when we think about this question, who is a leader? I want you to think about you. As a University of Utah Asia campus student, we believe that you are a student leader. This is a picture, if you look closely, it's from the class of 2019. It's a group that graduated last year. Orientation starts here. We talked about the journey of everybody from that previous slide in terms of where we all know the end story. We all know their success of starting Microsoft or being a civil rights leader or winning a Nobel Prize. But everybody starts from somewhere. And everybody's leadership journey at the UAC starts at orientation. Everybody has the ability, once you're on campus, to make an impact, to lead others, to host all sorts of amazing events and activities here on campus. You may be sitting there and listening to this presentation, and you may say, I don't see myself as a leader, and that's okay. You may be sitting there and listening to this presentation, and you're like, I'm the student body president, I create the yearbook, I'm the captain of my soccer team, whatever, and you see yourself as a leader, and that's great. Everybody has the ability to contribute at the UAC. Everybody has that reset when they come to this campus. Everybody has the ability to explore the areas of interest, to be able to figure out who they are. The great thing about university, the great thing about coming to the UAC is this is an opportunity for you to grow. It's an opportunity for you to develop. It's a safe space for you to make mistakes. So you can find something, you say, this isn't something for me. This isn't something that I'm excited about. And that's okay. We want you to do that here. We want you to figure out who you are. Utilize all of our great faculty and staff resources, work with our current student leaders so that you can you can be the person that you want to be when you graduate here in 4 years. Leadership is a challenge, leadership is a process. And we're here today in part to talk a little bit about that with our student leaders. When we talk about the UAC, we often talk about imagine you. Step 1, imagine. Step 2, do. When you come to our campus, you're going to see it in the front of our building, imagine you. We want you to think about who you are. We want you to think about who you want to be. When you go to Salt Lake City, this is the Marriott Library on our campus in Salt Lake City. It's the same thing. We want you to think about who you are, more importantly, who you want to be. And the great thing about the University of Utah, whether you're taking classes in Salt Lake City or here in Korea, is that we have great faculty and staff that are dedicated to helping you explore your interests. We have student leaders that are passionate about this place, passionate about creating change, creating the improvement around it. And I'm excited to welcome them in to our student leader panel. So I'm going to stop my screen share. And we should see everybody here. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Henry to provide an introduction. So just tell us a little bit about who you are. I don't need to be in it. So tell me a little bit about who you are, your background, what you're majoring in, all that sort of stuff.
Hello, I'm Henry, and I'm a film media art major. So I've been working as a student ambassador for 2 years. This is my 2nd year, and then I am doing teaching assistant for film department.
I'm also a film and media arts major, and I've been working as a student ambassador for about 2 years, and I'm also the student lounge manager.
Hello guys, my name is Hyobin, and I'm working as a student ambassador and leadership consultant.
Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. I'm a psychology major. This is my first semester working in leadership, and I am an orientation leader and a student ambassador.
All right, so we have a diverse group of students with all sorts of experiences. I'm curious, how did you get involved on campus?
I think starting off, when I was a prospective student coming here to visit campus, I interacted a lot with the student ambassadors. Emma, you know this. I think they helped me out a lot in kind of my transition from high school to college. And I think I wanted to be that kind of same leader for the incoming freshmen that are, you know, for spring 2020 and for fall 2020. I think it's super helpful for students to, you know, have another student there to talk to. And so that's one of the reasons why I joined.
Awesome. Anybody else on the stream?
I'm actually same as Sarah. So when I wanted to come here, I got help a lot from ambassadors and also admissions faculty. So I thought if I become an ambassador, I might be able to help a lot of people who are really willing to come here and like give a lot of like advices. So that's why.
Okay.
I decided to get involved on campus because I tend to be more quiet and removed, and I realized that if I'm like this during my whole college experience, I'm not going to get as much out of it, and I kind of wanted to learn how to grow and become more of a leader that I know I can be when I'm in my career later in my life. So I think that was one important thing that kind of got me to try and get into leadership experiences.
For me, same as Henry and Sarah's case, I really got lots of help, lots of advices from administration and also student ambassador. And I heard the psychology department here in UAC gives lots of opportunity in terms of a human factor perspective or cognitive neuropsychology perspective. So I was really interested in those kind of stuff. So yeah, that's really I was interested in that kind of.
So at some point, everybody here was a prospective student, and then you all have earned these positions, you worked around. How did you find out about these different positions?
So like in terms of like film and media art department, like as I'm working as a TA, I talk a lot with professors, like while I'm studying from them, and then also like I can get a lot of feedbacks when I'm doing on like my personal projects. So like getting close to them and then talk with other like student faculties helped me a lot to get to know more positions that I didn't know. So like communications helped me a lot for that.
Anybody else?
I think also just interacting with the student body, you know, especially for like orientation leader, you know, I think, Henry, you're my orientation leader. I think kind of just, you know, being able to communicate with him too kind of helped me out and figure out that I wanted to do that.
Cool. So yeah, so you're gonna get, as soon as you come to campus, you have the opportunity to interact with student leaders. There's a whole bunch of events that'll help connect students with that. So I think what's helpful is to be present and to ask questions, show up. But I'm curious, so everybody, we have our student lounge manager, we've got student ambassadors, we've got leadership consultants, we have folks that are involved in clubs in our panel, but not everything is easy. So I'm curious, have you ever been turned down from a leadership opportunity? What did you learn from that experience? How did you bounce back?
So I pretty much applied to like every leadership opportunity that has come up just because I kind of want to get as much experience in as I can. But obviously, as I'm applying for all these positions, there's no way I can be hired for all of them, and I'm also not going to be the perfect fit for all of them. So I know that last semester I applied to be an orientation leader, and I was not given that position. And I think at first I was kind of like, why was I not kind of like good enough to get this position? But then I realized either maybe it's not the right time for me to have this position, or there are people that are going to be a better fit and have better connections with the students when they come to this school. And maybe that's not where I'm supposed to be to kind of like introduce them to this place. Yeah.
So it's really challenging being a student leader on campus. And as you know, our students will take 4 or 5 classes at a time. And that's what, 15 hours in the classroom. And then outside of the classroom, you have papers, you got to study. You're also daughters, sons, you have family obligations, all sorts of stuff going on. So how do you balance all of the responsibilities of being both a student and a student leader?
I think definitely taking advantage of Google Calendar. I think that helps me plan out my day a lot. There's something I read actually recently. It was a quote that basically said, hard work isn't exactly always constantly at it, you know, hour by hour you're doing something. It's also taking breaks. and taking time for yourself in order to recharge and start again and feel motivated. So in order to balance out schoolwork and leadership, I actually take time for myself too. You know, I'll go for a run, or I'll just take time and paint in my room sometimes. And I think that really helps me kind of refresh and restart and be able to kind of separate both, but also work together at the same time.
Cool. Thank you.
I really agree that like using calendar. So when I first got the position, it was really hard for me to like manage this time, since I have like I have to work at school and also like do a lot of assignments and exams. So like probably I would say that like time management, like it takes some time to get used to it, but like probably you can use the calendar or like planner to get your manage your time.
Cool. So we got planners. We have somebody who paints or does or exercises in a way. Curious, Emma, Hyoben, do you have any? How do you balance or remain balanced?
Yeah, you go first. In my case, I try to grow my habit to do something ASAP. Like after I got assignment, I try to do as fast as I can, and then focus on other stuff. So that I think that was the most efficient way that I can manage my time.
Okay.
For me, I think it was kind of having this balance between doing schoolwork and then also work, but then also socialization.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the type of person that is like, I need to get all of this done before I can have fun. But with all of the stress that comes with college, it's important to take those breaks, like Sarah said, having time for yourself, but also making sure you're socializing with other people so you're not getting removed. And they can also like help you get through that stress and work through it together.
I think those are really great bits of advice. I think what's also really helpful when working with students is when they advocate for themselves. I think a lot of student leadership, it's flexible. So if you say, hey, I've got a really busy exam week, papers coming up, I think a lot of students start to become more comfortable saying, hey, can I do this at a later date? And I think that that's something that I would really encourage students to do, is to try to identify when they need balance and identify when they need support. So how have you grown as a student leader over the past few years? Past semesters?
It really helped me a lot because it gives me a lot of opportunities to contact with staff directly, so I can get more advice, and I can also get various information from friends and school staff. And yeah, and also while I was working as a leadership consultant, there were lots of opportunities that I can organize some events and have a direct connection with new students. So overall, it was really a great opportunity for me to grow as a leader.
I think, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. I think one thing about being a leader is also kind of knowing about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And basically through my leadership positions this semester, I learned that in certain situations, it's kind of hard to work under pressure. And so it's really important to figure out what situations you work best in and which situations you don't work best in, so that you can help, or you can ask people for help. And that way, not all of the work and load is on you, but you're able to kind of communicate with others and, you know, be honest with yourself and with others, saying, look, I need help at this time.
I'll say I got a lot of like confidence in myself since I am working as an ambassador. I can help like other people, like asking questions, like, and then also give them answers. So I thought, like, before I'm working as an ambassador, I thought I might not be a good person to help others, but like since I'm working as an ambassador, I can give a lot of help and then like advices. Also, I got a lot of like responsibilities at like working as a leader, since the leader is like you need to manage a lot of people and also help them. So those two be the best thing that I got at working as a leader.
Okay. And then do you have any advice, maybe one piece of advice for our freshmen as they come in to join us in the fall?
I would say like, don't be afraid to do something or like even like talk with others. if you don't reach out to them, they would not be able to help you. Like probably like some of us will like reach out to you, but if you are too much shy and then like pretend not to talk with us, then it might be hard to talk.
Yeah, going off of Henry, I think it's really important to be brave in your first semester on campus. You have to remember that as well as university is to help you with your career, it's also a time for you to kind of figure out who you are as a person and who you want to be. So it's really important to kind of go out of your comfort zone and try new things.
I also think that it's really important when you get to your first semester of college to realize that it's not going to go perfectly. It's not going to go exactly as you planned. Maybe you're not going to do as well in some classes as you hoped you would. Maybe your major you're not going to be as interested in as you thought you would be, and that's natural. It's just what's going to happen. You're not going to have your life planned out exactly, and it's not going to go exactly the way that you've planned it. And I think that's something that's really important to realize and to understand that everyone is kind of going through that same thing when they get here.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for our student panel. A virtual round of applause for the individuals, for our ambassadors who've been helping out. So I'm going to go back just in kind of wrapping up today's conversation. Oops, excuse me. Okay, so just a few things to wrap up. So, this is a slide from last night, taking the Wayback Machine to May 29th, 2020. Every year at the end of the semester, we do get to celebrate our students. So we get to talk about all their accomplishments at the UAC Awards. We host it because we think you guys are great. We think you have a great, amazing impact on our campus. And we're so proud of the work that you do. And we celebrate because we want to celebrate each other. We want to celebrate our accomplishments. We want to celebrate what makes the UAC a special place to be a student and a great community to be a part of. So there are incredible opportunities to get involved. I'm not going to go into each one of these in the interest of time. What I'll do is I'll leave them up here on the slides. If you go on our website and you talk to the individuals here, they can provide you additional information. They talk about some of these, being leadership consultants, resident advisors, our student council, university programming council, orientation leaders, our student ambassadors, our international student diplomat program. All of these are opportunities for you to get involved. The same way that you can get involved with different offices around our campus, including our advising center, the writing center, mental health clinic, our career and internship development center, and with me at the Student Leadership and Involvement Center with our International Services Coordinator. So as you think about this today, as you think about heading into your career, I want you to ask yourself, how are you going to make the most of your UAC career? How are you going to grow as a student leader? What are you going to do to explore your major, explore leadership, try something new, get out of your comfort zone, and to be the best version of you as you can possibly be? What I want to end with is what sets a UAC student apart. I've had the good fortune of being a part of this community for the past year. And when I think about our student leaders, I think about the amazing things that we do on our campus. I think they are driven by purpose. They want to improve this community. They want to improve themselves. We are the pioneers of this campus. So we are the ones that are developing and making this campus to be setting the path for it for the next several years. They're creative. Every single meeting that I'm in, everybody has these great ideas. We're all bouncing them off of one another. So I think what sets us apart is the creativity that we bring to the work that we do as students. They care for this community. Even though we had to do it on Zoom last night and we weren't able to do it in person, we had 100 students come because they wanted to celebrate each other. They care about this community. They care about being a part of the campus, and they're proud to be student leaders. They're driven. They are persistent. And most of all, they're UAC students. There are student leaders on our campus, and that was our presentation and our conversation today around leadership at the UAC. Again, we offer an incredible leadership studies minor. I hope you consider. We offer classes. We offer outside of the classroom leadership development opportunities for you. And going back to the slide a few slides ago, there are so many different ways that you can explore leadership that we already have. And if you didn't see something on there that you want to do, we have so many different ways that you can engage with leadership in areas that you want to explore. So the opportunities are there. The floor is yours to make the most of your experience over the next 4 years. So again, thank you. Our student leaders have put their emails and their contact information in our student chat for today. So I wish you all well, and we look forward to seeing you here at the UAC in the fall semester.